All right, hello everybody. This is Antonio Wolf, and here with me today is Abhishek or Curiosity Guy on YouTube. Uh, we talked before, right? Yeah, we did. We had discussion on freedom, uh, and
Yeah,
well, today we're gonna have a discussion debate on objective morality. Uh,
absolutely.
so I'm gonna present my argument first, and then you
Yeah,
can present
sure.
rebuttals. So here's the basics of my argument is this. Generally, what we mean by morality, and this is not really an appeal to, it is an appeal to democracy in a way, in that, like, this is how I think most people use it. I think you will have some issues with it. Uh, that's perfectly fine. Uh, by morality, what we mean is like these rules of things that we ought to do or actions that we ought to take. Uh, by definition, that requires that morality be objective. Like people talk about subjective morality. That's an oxymoron. That's like talking about square circles. It's just not sensical. It doesn't make any sense. If morality were subjective, well, you're basically saying there is no morality. So, I mean, one would have to basically be a fictionalist, like an error theorist or something, just say, like, there is no such thing. Uh, so that's the first thing. Like, by definition, I would say morality has to be objective, at least in what we're trying to talk about. It doesn't mean that it has to exist, but it means that the thing you're trying to talk about is at least objective. On a second point is then that when we are concerned with these oughts, I make a distinction between what I call hypothetical oughts and categorical oughts. And a hypothetical ought is like saying, I'm hungry, I ought to eat something. Uh, in this case, the hypothetical would be when do you eat? What do you eat? How do you eat it? You might want to have a burger or a salad or whatever. But just being hungry doesn't lead necessarily to like having to eat anything specific. It's very open. With a categorical ought, my preferred example is something like a seed, like say a tomato seed. Uh, we know that by the nature of the seed, that tomato seed, if you put it in the conditions that would enable it to be what it will grow into a full plant, it will produce tomatoes, and so on. Uh, this is part of what the seed is. When we say that the seed ought to grow into a tomato seed, and I don't know, like in your language, if this kind of speaking happens as well, but it happens in English, it happens in Spanish, where people talk about oughts in an objective sense about like what things are. Like you have a fridge and you say, well, the fridge ought to work such a way. It ought to cool, and if it doesn't do that, well, like what's not doing what it should? It's not doing what it ought, and that's just based on the judgment of what the thing is. So I would say morality is actually like these categorical oughts. It has to do with what things are. Just like how a good hammer is good insofar as it actually functions as a hammer, as it does the job that it's made to do, and it's not good if it's not. And obviously, those are not a hammer is not a moral object, nor a hammer being good or bad is a moral thing, but it is normative, and norms are definitely tied to the nature of morality. Uh, the distinction of the oughts of like these categorical oughts is that you can have statements of things that by their nature will and must happen if the nature is allowed to be engaged, like the seed. And when you say, well, the seed ought to turn into a plant, this is not some hypothetical of like, I hope it does or I would like it to. It's not a report of, my feelings or anything like that. It's a report of my acknowledgement that I know what this thing is. I know what it will develop into by its nature. And that if it doesn't, there's something wrong with this thing, or there's something wrong with my judgment about what the thing is. So a further point on that is that the basis that we generally have for morality as we learn it is that we have an innate sense of pleasure. Good, pleasure is just an automatic goodness. You don't have to be taught this. Nobody has to tell you this. You don't have to have a word for it, but you can definitely feel pleasure towards things and you seek them out. And you also feel pain towards things and you get away from them, or you seek to destroy them or negate the situation in which pain is being caused. Uh, People who would reduce morality to statements of, preference of this kind, don't look upon what the role of pleasure and pain is. Like, we don't have pleasure and pain. We don't experience it haphazardly, willy-nilly. By our very nature, things that are good for us tend to uh, be pleasurable. And the goodness here concerns the unity of being. And that's another thing. Morality has as its measurement good. So the good. One of the things that you see in moral debates normally is that people never tell you what this good actually is and why it should matter. Sometimes people say, well, good is pleasure. Okay. But obviously, we don't actually believe that. Nobody does. There's plenty of times in which things are pleasurable and you know that they actually lead to bad consequences. So that really isn't the case. And we still judge certain things to be good despite the fact that they're not immediately pleasurable. So the main point of my argument there is that whatever people are talking about with goodness, it has to do with the unity and maintenance and furtherance of their being. So insofar as I would say morality is objective, I would say that there are specific ways of living, specific ways of action in relationship to ourselves, which objectively lead to our flourishing, our maintained being physically, psychologically, rationally. And so, like, if you know something a little bit like you might know Kant, for example, there are duties to oneself, I would say. You have a duty to be healthy, you have a duty to learn and study and to know the truth. Because without these things, you actually can come to great harm. Ignorance is very dangerous for people, personally and socially. And then you also have certain duties to other people, mainly based on the fact that you are a social creature. No ifs and or buts. People can be failures as human beings. That's something that's very much allowed in my worldview. So, some random person being a psychopath or, who doesn't care about other people is not a problem for my moral standpoint. But anyways, those were my core points, and you may respond.
Sure, thank you. So you started off by saying that morality is subjective, is an oxymoron. That statement is an oxymoron. Uh, I can agree only if you're talking about objective morality. So objective morality is subjective. That's an oxymoron. I agree, but we can find out that morality is actually subjective. So when we're trying to discover whether morality is subjective or objective, we are trying to discover objective moralities. So we are trying to discover whether morality is actually objective, whether there are odds that we have to perform, and in that search for objective morality, uh, in that search for objective morality, when we are not able to find out objective morality, then we can say that that morality is an oxymoron because it doesn't exist. Yeah, obviously, according to me, objective morality doesn't exist. So that's an oxymoron. But it doesn't mean that subjective morality is an oxymoron, because from what I think morality is subjective. And then you go on to say about hypothetical odds and categorical odds. And I agree that hypothetical odds exist, but I don't agree that categorical odds exist. I don't think that there are stance-independent reasons for action or stance-independent moral truths that exist in the universe. in any way, natural or non-natural. So hypothetical odds exist means that if this is the case, then you have to do this. If this is your goal, then this is the way to achieve it, no matter what. This is the best way to achieve it, no matter what. So but you can still choose whether or not to uh, abide by that hypothetical odd. Like if you've found out a way to achieve this goal and you still don't have the motivation to do it, you still don't end up doing it. So at the end of the day, it depends on your subjective attitudes, preferences, desires, and interests um, to achieve that goal. In order to do a moral action, ultimately it depends on your desires, attitudes, and goals. If you don't have the desire, attitude, and goal to achieve that particular states of affairs, then you won't end up doing it, even if I grant or agree that there are stance independent moral truths out there, and you've grasped that and you comprehend what it is. But in order to achieve that, you gotta have the subjective attitudes and desires to motivate you towards that goal. And I don't think that uh, without that um, subjective desires and attitudes, you can achieve that goal. So, so what I would like to introduce here are two kinds of distinctions. One is the is-ought distinction, and the other is the value action distinction or something. If you have a value, it doesn't mean that you will act according to that value always. So, so the fact value distinction and the value ought. Uh, Sorry, what was that? A fact ought distinction and the ought action distinction. If you know what I'm saying. So yeah, there are two kinds of barriers that we have to cross in order to reach objective morality, and I don't think that we cross even the first barrier. So, and then you brought up the example of a seed, that a tomato seed is something that grows into a tomato plant. That's its categorical imperative or something. Firstly, I would like to say that not necessarily all tomato seeds do end up growing into the plant. And that's just my way of giving you an example of the fact that not all human beings will end up doing the moral thing. Right. So if the conditions and circumstances don't allow that to happen, then that doesn't end up happening. Uh, so my first objection to your argument would be the categorical uh, normativity objection, which is that where do you get the prescription from? You're explaining how the universe works. There's nature, there are laws of nature, they work together in certain ways, and there is causality, and things end up happening a certain way. That's just nature. But where do we get the prescription from? Where do we get the ought or the normativity from? There are no categorical reasons for action. We don't get it until we go to the subjective. If you want to say that the universe exists, human beings exist, and that each individual human thinks that this is morality, I mean, this is a moral thing to do, and similarly, and therefore objective morality exists, I'm not interested in that argument, because then subjective just means nothing. I agree that objectively human beings exist. I agree that human beings objectively follow a certain states of affairs or interactions with each other that they end up calling morality. So morality does exist. Human beings practice morality. But I'm just saying that ultimately it depends on subjective preferences and attitudes. So if you want to say that subjective doesn't exist, everything is objective, okay, I agree with that. But if you want to have a debate against a moral subjectivist, you're going to say that if you want to define objective this way and subjective this way, if you want to have a debate with a subjectivist, then you can't bring up that argument, which is saying that the universe exists, therefore objective morality exists. You say goodness is being. So I don't agree with that, because I can give you a lot of examples in which being is not good. For example, sometimes people would want to commit suicide, or I don't know whether you're aware of antinatalists, ethilists, and extinctionists. They want the universe. So antinatalists want humanity, and in some ways, I mean, they don't want to procreate and create new human beings. Ethilists and extinctionists want that all of life, which is sentient, and the only way to achieve it is that the universe be destroyed. So once the universe gets destroyed, there's no suffering anymore. So their goal is to end suffering, and the only way to end suffering is to destroy the universe, because there is always a possibility of life emerging and sentient life emerging if the universe goes on forever. So their their solution to the whole problem of morality is the universe to end rather than it exists. So it's the complete opposite of what you're saying, that existence is good. And your naturalistic account of moral objectivism, I find it as I find a fallacy there, which you might be aware of, which is a naturalistic fallacy. Whatever East nature is good, I think that's a fallacy. That's a logical fallacy, uh, and we can always find out a lot of examples. Like, suppose, like rape is what uh, helped in the existence or proliferation of a species into the future, then that's good. We will have to end up biting a lot of bullets if existence is good. Uh, Rape is good, or maybe diseases are good, parasites, all kinds of microorganisms which create suffering, mm, diseases, disabilities, destruction, and earthquakes and tsunamis and all those things. We will have to accept that somehow that's good. Uh, so existence has both good and non-good, which is, I mean, existence has both good and bad. So I don't agree with that, and I hope the audience won't agree with that either. Uh, and then let me just quickly read through what else do you say. No. Mm, okay, yeah, that's what I would like to say in the initial introduction to the topic. Yeah, you can jump in and respond to that.
Yeah. All right. Uh, so in response to the subjective morality not being an oxymoron distinction, it is. If you say that morality can be different for you and me, then you're basically saying there is no morality. That's just a fact of like how we use that word. There is no way in which you can make this. There's a morality for me, and there's a morality for you. Morality is not a private affair. It's an objective affair. So if things are objective, there's a relationship in which you and I stand, or I stand to myself, which is not my fictitious opinion. There can be no subjective morality by definition. It's not the fact that I begin from objective morality. That's just what morality means. When people talk about subjective morality, that is by definition nonsensical. There's nothing much else to say about that. The fact that people use the word morality, and indeed do say things like, oh, I think morality is subjective, they're just wrong. Just like somebody who might have a car and it's an electric car, and they might think, oh, well, I should put gas in my electric car. Well, you're going to ruin your car. You're just wrong. That's a
Okay.
concept distinction. Well, hold on. Let me respond to everything.
All right.
So then you disagree with the categorical oughts existing. You mentioned stuff about stance independence. I prefer just objectivity. Objectivity here just means something that is an independent being on its own, regardless of any perceivers otherwise and their beliefs otherwise. The plant is, for example, an object insofar as you don't have to be around for the plant to be itself and to exist and do what it does. You don't have to know how it works. You don't have to go out and water it out in the wild. It has its own life cycle. It does its own thing. It is what it is, regardless of anything you do in relationship to it as far as your beliefs go. Obviously, you can trample on the plant or whatever, but that's just you objecting to its own existence. It's kind of irrelevant in that way. So the categorical oughts, you say that you doubt that they exist. Well, they do. We see them every day. Like nature, as plants and living beings, exist independent of any beliefs that you have. They are what they are regardless of what you think. You might think a cat should breed with a cow. You're not going to get it to happen because that's not what the things are. So your subjective views of this will not matter. And that's the way in which morality functions as well. Your subjective view of it doesn't matter. Your disagreement with it doesn't matter. It's like gravity, quite literally. If you think that it's okay to go around murdering murdering is to kill without any good reason. So if you think it's okay to go around murdering, you're going to find out that murder is not very good, not only for other people, but for you. Because then now other people will seek out to murder you. Now, you might not care. You might just be one of those weird, crazy people who likes chaos. You might be like the Joker. You might just find it funny and like, well, they finally got me. Okay, well. That just makes you a defective human being, in my view. It does not make morality defective. As a matter of fact, morality basically is going to get you. You go around killing people, people are going to kill you. You're going to live a short life, they live a short life. And until people start getting their act together, you're going to be like, it's like a car. You're going to keep screwing it up because you think, like, oh, this thing is the thing to do, and it's not actually how it works. You're messing with a mechanism that you're ignorant of, or that you're being willfully ignorant of, perhaps. And all you're going to do is constantly break it, and it's not going to work until people finally get their act together and realize this is not how it works. We can't really do this. So obviously we can't have a society run by, murderers and all these other things. Things fall apart pretty quickly. So the fact that we have the societies that we do, where most people do follow general moral standpoints in which they do pay attention to what maintains them as physical, psychological, and rational, shows you that indeed there are moral rules. People call them moral facts, and I see that in debates that I've listened to, including debates that you've had with other people, nobody ever talks about what those actually are, what it means to be a moral fact. For me, a moral fact, if you want to call it that, is the fact of being. Just like how if you jump off a 10-foot story building, you're going to die by what gravity does, regardless of your opinion of it. You might be delusional. You might think gravity doesn't matter and that you can just fly. You're going to find out. Likewise, if you think that society can be run in a crazy, haphazard Joker manner, you're going to find out very quickly that can't really be done. You can't run societies that way. And if society collapses, you collapse along with it. We are social beings. So you mentioned stuff about people not being seemingly motivated by these oughts. I completely disagree, because these oughts are what you are. So if, we are social beings, which we are, the vast majority of people very much like being around other people. They like socializing. They like all these other things. So they will do the things that maintain and increase this actuality, because the actuality is already there. It's not a hypothetical. It's not a maybe. It's not a, well, maybe if you'd like to. Well, no, you'd like to. That's just a fact. Yes, there are very rare people who wouldn't like to. Those people are just defective human beings. And they're an extreme minority. So for me, the is-ought distinction is pointless. The ought is the is. It's just an is that is not yet. So the issue of the is ought is that David Hume asks, well, where does this ought come from? It seems that we just project it onto things. Well, no. If you just show that the ought, by what you mean by that, is the consequent nature of a thing, what it will become by its very nature, that's it. And when we're talking about the being, we're not talking about immediate existence. So I'm not talking about you might see a murder and you say, oh, that is an actuality. In my technical jargon, that it's not. It exists, yes. It's a bare existence. It is a fact, but it's not a real being. And what morality deals with is real being, like actual being, not fictitious being or apparent being. Like a mound, for example, a mound of dirt is not an actual being. It's not an object of its own. It is a contingent object made of actual objects, which are the minerals and stuff that make themselves and maintain themselves. But mounds of dirt don't do that. Likewise, chairs don't do that, or even cars don't do that. Cars are basically pseudo objects that are subjectively made by us. They're not independent, full objects. So many of the things in the world that you might say, oh, this is the objective fact, only on a very superficial level can you say that a lot of the things that we would call errors are not objective facts themselves. They are falsities. About the fact ought distinction, that's just another form of the is ought and the ought action. The ought action is the motivation side. Why aren't people motivated, you might say? And my answer is people are motivated. There is no hypothetical here. The fact that we live in the societies that we do already shows that this motivation is inherent to us. Yes, there are, again, a few people here and there who may be failures of an ontological kind. Sucks to be them. You point out that
Sure.
not all tomato seeds, for example, will grow into the fruiting plant. Yes, that's a failure. That's not a failure of the law of morality or the fact of morality, if we analogize it that way. That's just a failure of either the seed, maybe the seed's defective, its genetics are wrong, or maybe the environment is just not conducive. For example, you can't expect that somebody in like the middle of the Congo, in a war-torn area, is going to be even able to carry out certain ethical or moral like things because they don't have the conditions to do so. That does not disprove that there is or it does not actually make it legitimate to call upon moral facts. And that because the fact that one is in a war-torn situation of that kind, where the ethical has already broken down and the capacity to be moral has largely broken down, and the fact that it remains broken down. For example, the Congo has been in a constant war for like half a century, more so, actually even longer than that. Yeah, those people are basically suffering the direct consequence of not abiding by moral laws. That's what happens when you don't. You feel pain on a personal and broad social level. The fact that these people would not recognize this, for example, and I'm not saying that they don't, because it's not entirely their fault, factually speaking. They're not the ones fully engaging these wars. Does not make it the case that there is not a fact to how they ought to behave in order to maintain their being, increase it. So that the contingent failure of a seed or the failure of the conditions for the seed to engage its nature don't disprove this at all. You ask where the prescription comes from. Again, it comes from the nature. This is not a hypothetical. Since the thing that I'm calling on as an ought is the thing that it is in the future by its development, I'm not saying anything crazy. If you say, well, look, I throw the rock up in the air and it ought to come down, and it'll come down at a certain rate of velocity, will follow a certain arc. That's the kind of ought that I'm talking about. That doesn't suffer the is-ought distinction problem. Because anybody would say, well, yeah, that rock will come down, if gravity holds, and gravity does hold. It's not hypothetical that it does. It does. Then it will come down, and it will come down in a certain arc. As far as reasons for action, again, failure to follow that because you are defective is kind of irrelevant. That just makes you a bad human being. in a general sense of your function or operation. The fact that people call morality a lot of things, and this is not exactly true, really. If you look historically at the ways in which across cultures people speak about morality, it's actually really similar. The golden rule is just about everywhere. The ways in which ideas of knowing your place according to a certain order of the universe is everywhere. Even the idea I'm talking about is not even it's not something I came up with. I consider it just basically the classical theory of morality put forth in a bit clearer way, perhaps, because it's not very obvious. That it's always been about the case of what you are. You say, well, goodness. Well, before that, so it's not subject to preference, for example, again, because people act and have always mentioned across cultures that one should act according to certain norms that do not immediately have to do with your pleasure. We can eschew the definition subjective versus objective. I already dealt with that. Naturalistic fallacy, again, since I don't consider immediate existence to be the fact of what things are, to be their real being, that doesn't matter to me. So, cancer does not count as being for me. Cancer is a failure of being. It's an error. It's a falsity, if you want to put it in ontological terms. Lying, for example, is a falsity as well, if you put it in ontological terms. So the natures I'm talking about are like pure natures, like the actual natures, not contingent natures infected by all these other external things that would make it a problem for them to be realized. And even then, it's not much of a problem. Like, for example, regarding where does the prescription come from, how do you know that a tomato seed ought to grow into a tomato plant? One, it does. Two, there is a complete systematic reality to the tomato plant. It has a whole ecosystem of its own and life cycle across a species, such that by the tomato plant's own being, it would deny you crossbreeding it, say, with a tangerine tree or a mango tree. The natures don't clash. Well, they don't come together. They clash. And this is not some subjective positing of me. This is the plants themselves. The plants themselves don't breed amongst each other. You trying to do so by your subjective whim would not change this. So that's where the ought comes from. That's the impetus. It's the nature of the thing. Then you say goodness is being is not true. I deny that. You mentioned people who go on to commit suicide. None of those people want nothing. What they are running away from is pain, because pain is the lived experience of some non-being of yours. It can be a physical pain, it can be psychological pain, and there's even rational pain. And people run away from pain. Pain is the feeling of your disunity. Like, for example, you could have somebody who's wired completely wrong, right? That what destroys them is what gives them pleasure. Well, what you would see is that person kills himself. And they're dead. You're not. I'm not. The vast majority of the world is not, because we're not screwed up. We're not designed faultily. So things that destroy them, well, would do exactly that. They'd be destroyed. And things that sought things that don't destroy them, obviously would keep on being, and they would keep on living in this world. And it's living and the existence that actually determine anything. So those who would destroy themselves take themselves out of the game of reality. It doesn't matter what it is that they thought or think or do. And even then, they're not seeking non-being. They're seeking reprieve from non-being. They don't see any other way out, and it's not that non-being itself is good. It's that they only see a world of bad. So the antinatalist, for example, has that, in which they don't see nothingness as good. They just see existence as bad because of the factor of suffering. But this is, again, a completely subjective thing where most beings clearly do not experience this. Most beings do not experience existence itself as pain. As a matter of fact, most beings experience it as pleasure. The fact that there are problems with one's life that one has to deal with counter tendencies. And, there is a lot of struggle. does not negate the fact that, we are so constituted as to seek our survival, to seek our maintenance of being, and that this coincides inherently with the feelings of pleasure and pain. And when they don't, what we find is beings destroy themselves, and well, they're dead and we're not. So that's the end of my response. You may respond.
So, so okay, let's imagine that you and I are the first human beings on Earth, and we're trying to discover morality is objective or not. You're able to imagine that, right? It's not like we are assuming that objective morality exists. Let's discover how it exists. Let's have a coherent, consistent account for that. It's not like we're assuming that it already exists. Let's find out how it exists. It's like we are finding out whether it exists or not. Do you agree with that? When we don't know anything.
No, like I would not phrase it that way. Honestly, in this scenario, I wouldn't say like, "Oh, we are the first people on Earth," and suddenly we have this magical thought of an empty idea, and we just call it morality. And we're like, "Well, what does this exist? Well, what are we talking about?"
Not an empty idea. Yeah. Okay. See, we interact with each other, and we have this feeling of something is bad, something is good, and we try to figure out whether it's objective or not. It's an objective feature of the universe, or if it's just coming subjectively. We are trying to figure out. Are we assuming that it already is objective? We're not, right?
No, I mean, unless you tell me what the goodness and badness we're referring to is, I can't even tell what we're talking about. Are we talking about pleasure?
Not necessarily. Like we feel like when you hit me, I feel like that's bad. Simple as that.
No,
Now
no, no. That's
we
not a feeling.
just
You feel pain.
yeah,
Badness is a judgment. Now,
yeah, I
what do
feel
you mean
pain.
by the badness? You feel the pain. We know what the pain is. We know what the
Badness is a
pleasure is.
subjective judgment.
Yeah, yeah. What is it though? No, I mean, like, what do you mean by badness?
That I feel bad. Subjectively, I feel bad, and I subjectively feel that that kind of
No, no. What does that word
interaction between
mean?
people shouldn't be promoted.
No, what does that word mean? So you say it's bad. I get that there's pain. Pain by definition is you don't like it. But what do you mean by bad?
Yeah, but bad, I mean something that I don't want experienced by myself in the future. It's a feeling. It's a subjective feeling. It's an experience
Well,
that I
well,
feel,
well. Yes.
and
Okay.
there
If we
need not
begin
be
this
much
way,
more explanation for that.
yeah. If
Yeah.
you decide to begin this way, oh, okay. Well, fine. Then badness
Mm.
is just another word for I don't like this. Uh,
Yeah,
okay. So
subjective.
yes, because you defined it that way. Now, historically, that's not how we defined it.
What do you mean by
It-
that?
it- Historically, the people who have actually talked about morality do not define it upon pain and pleasure. They define it just like a car engine. You know, you
Okay,
talk about a good hammer, you talk about
I'm not
a
just
good fruit, and it's not a pleasure thing. A good hammer is not that it
I'm
gives
not
me pleasure.
reducing I'm not reducing it to only pleasure and pain. Sometimes I can have bad feelings towards other things as well, which don't necessarily minimize pain and maximize pleasure. Like maybe deontological rights or something. I give myself a right that you not torture me, uh, or we can, we can find examples in which pleasure is not maximized and pain is increased, but still it's a good thing. I can think of examples of that. Like for example, sometimes courage or this integrity. Uh, these are good features and these are moral features, even if courage uh, doesn't improve pleasure, overall pleasure in the universe. For that particular example, so if you say vaguely that existence is good, it's not interesting. What philosophers talk about when they talk about metaethics and morality, and when they're trying to find out whether objective is subjective, is they want to know answers to a particular question, particular instance of human interaction. For example, say, uh,
I
So
disagree.
is this particular action good or bad? That's what we want to find out. So
Yes.
this guy X is doing this to Y. Is that particular action good or bad? That's what we are trying to find out when we are doing
Right.
metaethics.
Right. But then, do
Yeah.
you see that
So
like it has not been stated what the good is? Like you use this word, but you haven't said what it is, and this is the crux. That this is the real meta-ethical crux. Nobody ever tells you what the good is.
yeah, because we are trying to figure out, we still don't know what the good is.
No, no,
It's
no.
not like
Like
we already know and let's figure out how to
none.
achieve it. We are
Well,
trying to figure out.
well,
See, you and I are debating metaethics, and we are trying to figure out what is good, what is bad, how is good achieved, where do we get good from.
uh,
All these things we are trying to
it's not
figure
a,
out,
it's not an
and
empirical thing.
you can't come up with an assumption that it already is
It's not an assumption, Abhishek.
objective.
No, it's not an assumption.
You're coming with
No, no.
for
Okay, so
for
when you say
morality.
this,
See,
okay. So do you think
for
that there's an
subjective
object?
morality, listen. For subjective morality to be an oxymoron, you must already assume that morality should be or already is
No,
objective.
no. I'm not
Yes,
an
that's what an
empiricist.
oxymoron
So I'm not an
means.
empiricist in this way.
That's what an
I know who you've
oxymoron
talked to
means.
about this. They're just wrong about it. This concept of morality is not an empirically derived concept to begin with. So appealing to, well, look, bunch of people have these different conceptions and we don't know what it is. No, we do know what it is. Everybody's know what it is. What they mean by morality is that there are objective rules, and it's always objective. Subjective morality is literally a modern thing where people have been literally confused by language because they
You're
think that
reasoning
if they,
circularly.
it's not circular reason. It's not a
That's
circular
circular
reasoning. I'm
reasoning.
appealing to the historical way in which words are used. That you can't just redefine things willy
No,
nilly
you're not.
and using the same words verbally, but you're not
No, you're
meaning the
not.
same concept.
When moral
So
philosophers talk
morality,
about
no.
metaphysics,
When moral philosophers historically, I know what moral philosophers today talk about. They're
yeah,
just wrong. They don't
and,
tell you about what the good is. None
and
of
I'll
them ever
just say
tell
that
you.
the old moral philosophers are wrong. Right now, today's 21st, 20th, 19th generation, 19th century moral philosophers, when they talk about metaethics, uh, they are trying to find out whether there are stance independent reasons for action
Yes,
or
but
stance
why?
independent
Based on
moral factors.
what? Based on what? They'd have to define what the good is. Now, who defines what the good is?
And the
Be-
good is also a part of finding that out.
no. What you have to tell me what it is first. You're gonna say, look, we need to measure the distance from here to the moon. Okay, are we using inches? Are we using meters, centimeters, millimeters, astronomical units? What are we using?
See,
What is the
we
measure?
try to find out whether morality is, uh, what is good. We're trying to find out what is good, and we're not able to find out, and we end up
But
with the
we do find
conclusion
out.
that goodness is subjective.
No,
We're
I
not
mean,
able to
look,
find out an objective
Abhishek,
goodness, and
Abhishek,
that's
what
why
is the good? Abhishek, what is the good?
goodness
That
is
is all.
subjective.
That is all that is required to answer this question. What is the good?
You are assuming objective morality there
No,
when
I'm not
you're asking
assuming
what is
there.
the
I'm
good.
just asking what is the good.
For me, it's I can only talk subjectively, because I'm a subjectivist. I will say good is so I'm a threshold deontologist. I will say for many of the questions, I would say utilitarianism is the answer. So for some of them, it's deontology. So yeah, that's what pleasure
So
maximization, pain minimization.
yeah. So
For
what
many
is
of the
the rule
questions,
though?
and
So how do you choose between any of these? What is the rule?
that's my preference. That's my
Okay,
subjective preference. Simple as that.
if your preference is that you'd like to drink like antifreeze, do you think that's good?
Hmm. Yeah, for me it's
Well,
good.
well, well,
Subjectively,
well. No, not for you. It's good. You might experience it as good. Like I gave you the example. You might be somebody who is
mhm.
a failed human being, and your brain might be wired wrong. You might experience things that are destructive as pleasurable. All that's going to do is Abhishek will kill himself because he's wired wrong, And the rest of the people who aren't wired wrong, they'll continue living, and they'll look at Abhishek like,
You're
gee,
circularly reasoning and
it's not
assuming
circular reasoning.
that what is
Abhishek,
wired wrong, what is wired right. You're
no,
already assuming
Abhishek,
that.
it's not an assumption. I survive, you die. Who continues? Who gets to determine what happens in the world? You?
Who
You're dead.
cares who continues?
Well,
Why do you
okay,
assume
again,
that
it's not about
goodness has
caring.
to do
It's
with
not about
existence?
caring.
Yeah,
It's not about caring.
yeah. I don't care. See, you're assuming that goodness is about existence, but I don't think so. For most of
But
the Christians,
why?
maybe it
Why?
is.
Why
Okay, I'll
is
tell
it?
you. I'll tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
See, most of the questions, the answer would be existence. If you break that down, it helps. If you think about it like existence, like pleasure and existence are not too untied with each other. They're kind of tied with each other, but for some of the fringe questions, the answer wouldn't necessarily be existence.
What kind of fringe
Like I said,
questions?
like
Give me an example.
I'll tell you. So take for example a soldier who kills himself. Deont he has deonting impulses, and he just sacrifices himself for the good. Suppose
That is
it doesn't.
existence.
No, he's just killing himself. Suppose
No, no, no,
it
no, no.
doesn't.
Let me explain why.
No, wait.
So I
No,
even
wait.
in my
Let me
I
just
think in the
complete.
article that I
Let
sent you, I even
let me
addressed
complete this
that.
thought experiment. Let
Okay,
me
fine,
complete
fine.
this thought experiment. So the soldier kills himself, and suppose that there is no increase or decrease in utility, but we would still say that that's a good thing to do. All right. So there's nothing. So he's actually dying there, and existence is not promoted here.
It is.
But I still think that's a good thing.
No, it is
No,
promoted.
see,
Uh,
I told you there's no utility increase or decrease
Again,
here.
I'm not a utilitarian. My appeal will
You
not be
can,
toward utility.
no,
My
no,
appeal is not towards utility.
whatever it is,
No,
existence is not promoted.
it is promoted.
Existence is not promoted
It is
or even
promoted.
honored.
Okay,
I don't think so.
it is promoted. So again, you seem to think that the human being is reducible to this atom. They're not. The human being is a social being. You know, so a person dying on the battlefield for honor, even if their death ends up being, just an empty number that even didn't affect anything, uh, for this person, their aim is not non-being. Their aim is the being because they see themselves as part of this greater whole. They see the continuance of their own self in this greater whole, even if their conscious self is gone. This is like the whole idea of legacies, blah, blah, blah. This is why we have history. This is why we remember people. You don't die in a technical sense, at least in the Western view. We don't see people as dying immediately with their bodies. You keep going on. So, when this person dies for honor, what are they dying for? They're dying for what they consider their true being. You know, I gave it, I think the article that I linked you of mine, I even addressed that, where, somebody say like, even dies for honor. They're not dying to save the country or anything. Say like you're a Chinese or Japanese warlord, you kill yourself because you're out of shame, because it's more honorable to kill yourself than let your enemy kill you.
I
That
can just
person
add
does
on
it.
to the hypothetical.
Yeah. That
I can
person is
add on more
doing it.
things to the hypothetical.
It doesn't
See,
matter. Like the point is that
just
in the
imagine.
example. Well, no, hold on. So my
Imagine,
point is,
yeah.
hold on, just let me finish. So my point of that is that the person is not making non-being their end, and it is itself a pleasure to die heroically. It is itself a pleasure to die honorably, and people
You will
who
have
do
to prove
this,
that
I don't have to
empirically.
prove it. I don't have to
There's
prove
no
it.
pleasure involved there.
What are you
You're
talking about? Yes, there
irrational to
is.
say that.
It is literally
See,
a
you're
rational
irrational to
pleasure.
say.
It is literally a rational pleasure. Pleasure
It is
does not
irrational.
mean physical
First of
pleasure.
all, first of all, realization of pleasure is not happening there, and the belief
It is
that
a
it will
pleasure.
is also irrational.
People literally
Not really,
want to
not
have
at all.
heroic deaths. It is historically. I mean, you're just historically
Yeah,
and
but
factually wrong on that.
the realization of pleasure is not happening. They're
It is
dying.
happening. That is literally
Not only
the
that, they're
pleasure of
dying,
it.
they won't have the pleasure that they think they will have.
No,
All
they
right.
have the
So,
pleasure
like I
in
said,
the
I
act.
can add to the hypothetical. I can add to suppose that the world is such that this guy dies, and as somehow as a consequence of that, that whole country is going to be destroyed. How's that then improving existence. And he knows this. He knows that the whole country will die, but he still wants to honor courage, and he sacrifices himself and doesn't mind the whole country dying. And we will still call it moral, but
No, I would not call it
existence is not
moral.
permitting that.
I would call that person insane and retarded.
No,
They're an
even that
example of what I would call a flawed human being, in which they are a failure. Their cognition has failed. They have not actually ascertained
that's
the situation. They have not
that's why I'm
understood the
saying that
nature of their own being. So this person cannot be considered moral, and they cannot be considered to actually be making a rational decision at all.
according to your view, which is
No, not according to
subjective,
my
but according to
view.
my
In
subjective
my
view,
view,
uh,
it's not according to
I
my
can imagine
view.
that subjectively those guys think that's moral, even if they
Again,
know,
why do you
all
reduce
of
this
them
to
know
what
they're
people
gonna die.
think? Why do you reduce this to what people think? Like, that's just not morality. Morality is not a
Because
fiction
that's
in
how
your
we are
head.
getting morality.
No,
We are
no, it's
getting
not how we're getting
morality out of
morality.
subjectivity.
No, we don't.
It's subjective preference
It's
and
not more. No,
desires.
it's not. Why is it that
Absolutely.
99% of your subjective preferences, Abhishek, happen to coincide with your objective requirements? Why is it that you find food pleasurable and not, painful? Why is it? Is it just some random occurrence of reality? Or is it because reality is so constituted as to produce itself in a way to be? There is something rather
Do
than
you
nothing.
do you agree that subjective morality means that
I
morality
disagree that
and
there
broken
is
down?
any.
Wait, wait, wait,
No.
wait, 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 wait. Wait.
Okay.
Listen. Do you agree that subjective morality means that morality is dependent on subjective attitudes, preferences, goals, and desires? Do you agree with that?
I disagree that you can call that morality.
Okay, whatever. But then you're just not debating with anybody right now. Do you understand? You're
Well,
not
you're not
debating with
debating with
me.
me either. I mean, you haven't answered my
How is that so?
points.
I know what you mean by objective morality, and I'm trying to tell you that that's wrong.
No,
You're
you
not debating with
haven't.
me because you have no concept of subjective morality. You're just not willing to assume the interlocutor's position
Why would I
and try to
assume your
debate.
position when your
You're
position is square
you're
circles?
by assuming I mean at least acknowledge his position and then debate. You are
I do
assuming
acknowledge your
that his
position. I have
position is
answered.
true already.
I have answered your
No, you have
points.
not.
I have.
No,
Again,
you have
again,
not.
when we
We
speak
can.
about morality, we speak about norms of actions towards the good. You have not told me what the good is. You have told me a good is as an appearance to you, but an appearance is not a good. And that does not
Antonio,
constitute any kind of fact. God.
your definition of morality, I mean, your account of metaethics is completely vague.
Vague.
I
I'm
mean,
the vague
yeah,
one. That's surprising to me.
really.
You're the one who
And the
hasn't
reason I
laid
say
out
that,
anything.
no, the reason
You
I
have
say
you have not
that
laid
is
out a theory of the good. You have not laid out a theory as to what a subject even is.
I told you that the theory of the good is that goodness is a
It's just
subjective
preference.
feeling.
Yeah, yeah. And what
Yeah,
is the subject? Is there
subject is the
is
human being. Now
well,
would you say that
exactly.
the human being is an
No, no,
objective,
not the human being. But yes, oh
human
good.
being is
Yeah,
an object,
yeah.
independent of
It is an
people's
object. So
desires?
there
Yeah,
is an
I
actual
agree.
way that subjects are.
Human beings, human beings exist objectively. That we are not even debating right now. We are
Right,
agreeing with
right.
each other.
So then
Yeah,
when we talk about actions and actions that you ought to take, why do you think your own objectivity would be irrelevant to you? Like, wouldn't you consider it clearly idiotic and irrational for you to rationally know I need food, and then you don't feel like eating food? And like obviously this happens. People get
right.
depressed. People get depressed. But depression
Hmm.
comes and goes
Now you
sometimes,
say
right?
they're
So
defective.
so so you deciding, well, I just don't feel like eating food. I'm just gonna let myself die. Are you being rational or irrational? Are you letting a little moment of bad stuff in your life overtake everything?
All rationality depends on desires. It depends on what your desire is. If you want to die, then you're rational to do things that aid your dying. If you don't want to die,
Why is it
then you're
limited to
rational.
you? Why is it limited to you? Don't you think about your family? Don't you think
Yeah.
about uh, the society you live in? Don't you think about the other things that you do in your life? People don't think just about themselves.
Yeah, most of them don't, but some of them do,
Yes, those
and
people
that's
are
all again
failures.
subjective.
No, those people are
You
failures.
can
Like,
call it
why do
whatever
you
you
think
want.
that they break the rule?
You can call them whatever you want, but I'm just saying that evolutionarily, people who promote existence uh, exist because that's what promotes existence.
Well, that's because
Do you
that's
understand what I'm
what
saying?
existence is. Existence exists. Does it exist to not
That's just
exist?
existence. That's natural fact.
That,
That's an explanation of the universe. But that still
that's not
doesn't
an
tell me what I
explanation.
should do and shouldn't do.
No, it does.
That still doesn't tell me what I should
It
and
does.
shouldn't do.
It does. It
It
does.
doesn't.
You're a biological
I can
being.
just be an
You eat meat and you eat plants. You ought to eat
and
food because you're going to die, and I guarantee you're going to go and eat something later today because you don't want to
so
die,
whatever.
and you also experience the pleasure of food. Why? Because you're in rational unity with yourself. When you're not in rational unity, you destroy yourself.
I can be completely rational and be an antinatalist or FList or
That's not completely
extinctionist.
irrational.
And
That's not
I,
completely rational.
I
That's
find it
somebody who does not
completely
understand it.
coherent. See, that's completely coherent and rational
It's not.
account that they
It's
have.
not coherent.
It's
It's not
I just
coherent.
don't have that subjective preference. I don't have the preference that the universe end.
No,
I
because you're
disagree
not
with them. I
irrational.
find that absurd. But they're not irrational.
They are
They're
irrational.
completely
Okay,
rational. Not at all.
irrationality has nothing to do with you. Irrationality has to do with the totality of the world you are a part of. You are not some magical being from some other reality in this reality where this reality has nothing to do with you. When you are at odds with reality, you are irrational. So, the people who are at odds with reality, yeah, they will destroy themselves. And the people who aren't, they'll continue being. Just like the universe will continue being when the dead people are dead.
It depends on what you mean by odds with reality. I can completely think of someone who doesn't want to be a part of reality and they're still rational.
They're at odds with reality. Somebody says,
What do
look,
you mean
I
by
want to kill.
odds?
Yeah, yes, yeah, hold on. So let me give you an example. So somebody says they have a dream and they find out, like, this dream is just not possible. Right? I want to be Superman, and obviously, like, Superman isn't real, and I can't gain superpowers by, going and drinking radiation or whatever, like Spider-Man. And this person goes, like, oh man, my life goals are over. I just can't do it. Might as well just kill myself because, like, I can't do what I want in this reality. That person is at odds with
Hmm.
reality. They're irrational. It's not the reality is irrational. They're irrational. They don't come into unity with reality. So they fall apart. They destroy themselves.
So the Superman thing, he says that it's not possible to be to live in a Superman kind of a world. So I'm killing myself.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't find that irrational at all because if they have the desire to not live in a world which is not Superman-y, they are rational in killing themselves. It's because you're assuming that you have
No,
this assumption of
it's
existence
not an
as good
assumption. It's not an
because you
assumption. You
think
live in
it's
this world,
irrational.
Abhishek. He lives in this world,
Yeah, I
or
do.
they
I
live in
just
this world.
find myself, I find myself existing in this world, and I find myself loving existence or uh, loving not wanting to not exist. I mean, loving wanting to not exist. I do, but some of them might not, and
Yeah,
it's all
and
coming
and
subjectively. And that's all I'm saying.
and the fact that you're in this world means that you're part of the rationality of this world. When you are subjectively broken off
Whoa,
from
what
it,
does that mean?
the rationality of
Part of
this
the
world,
rationality of the world.
yeah,
What does
rationality,
that
it
mean?
just means that things come into a relationship, that they are in a determinate relationship, that there are, and this determinate relationship is not based on your fictitious beliefs. Just like again, if you're wired wrong, what happens is you will be destroyed, not the world. You will be destroyed because you're the irrational one, not the world. And everybody else who's rational, who's at one with the world, continues on being.
You're begging the question
That's not begging the
wired
question.
wrong. You when you say wired wrong, you're already assuming the conclusion there.
I'm not assuming the
But
conclusion.
but you don't but you don't have to do it when you think morality is subjective. You can just say that according to my moral preferences, that guy is
you
stupid.
can
That guy
you
is wired
you
wrong.
haven't told me
But
what
you can't say
morality
that objective
is. Like you just keep repeating
morality
subjective
is.
morality, but that doesn't do anything.
I just told you 3 4 times that morality is human beings expressing their subjective attitudes.
Yes, and then
Simple as
there
that.
is an
Attitudes
objectivity
doesn't
to those
imply it's not
attitudes, which
forever.
you agree to. You
Oh,
agree that there is actually an
yeah, I
objectivity to
agree
those
that.
attitudes.
You know what I agree with? That human beings who think, or human beings who express subjective attitudes objectively exist. Yeah, I agree with you in that. But
No,
that
no,
doesn't
not
mean that
objectively
morality is
exists. That's
subjective.
not the objectivity
That,
of it. The
then what?
objectivity of it, Abhishek, is that you happen to find food delicious, so you don't die, you don't starve. You happen to find broken bones very painful, so you don't die and harm, like, so you don't harm yourself. These
That
things
doesn't tell me
are
what to do.
not. It does tell you what to do. What do you mean? If I
It doesn't
stabbed you
tell me
right, if
what
I
to do
stabbed you, if I
independent of
stabbed
my
you right
stance.
now, if I stabbed you
Yeah.
right now, would you
Hmm.
run towards the knife or run away from the knife?
I'll run away from the knife.
Is that some
That's an objective
hypothetical?
fact.
Yeah, it's an objective fact.
Uh,
Why?
yeah,
Because when you're
there's a
stabbed,
hypothetical hidden
the
there.
feeling of pain, it's not
There's
hypothetical.
a
The
hypothetical
feeling
hidden
of
there.
pain, the feeling of pain, the fact of the feeling
Yeah.
of pain has the consequence, the ought, that you will move away from the pain, or if you can't move away from it, you will try to eliminate the cause of the pain. That's not a
That's
hypothetical,
not
it's a
how
fact.
that's not how people define art. That's not how philosophers
That,
define art. You just
that
defining your art. And I
No,
agree
this
with you
is how
because
people.
that's your
This
art.
is how people define the art. This is one of the
No,
ways in which it is commonly used, at least in English. Again, like I said, like I don't know, like in Hindi or
I don't care
whatever
about
low
that.
language.
See,
It does. You care. Okay, so
no,
you just appeal to people not using it, and I'm telling you they do. In English, there is a very common use of the ought. This hammer ought to do this. The fridge ought to work that way. People use
okay.
objective categorical oughts
See,
all the time. So yes, they do use the ought this way.
uh,
And
I think
philosophers today
that's just a
don't.
poetic, metaphorical usage.
It's not metaphorical. It's very intelligible.
It's a poetic
It's
usage,
not. It's
which
not
you can probably
poetic.
use
It's not poetic.
for
I've explained exactly what it
art
means.
work.
It's perfectly intelligible.
When it comes to philosophy and when it comes to logic, that's not how we use ought. We can't
Well,
have an ought conclusion
that's
without
not
an
how
ought in the
you
premise.
use it in the modern day. Analytics, I know, don't use it this way
Not
because
me.
analytics are not very intelligent people. But if you go back before the
Oh, wow.
1900s, if you go back before the
What
1900s,
a
Abhishek,
claim.
it no, it is a claim, and it's true, by the way.
Okay, see, the people
But
before
if you
1900,
go
you
before
will
the
agree.
1900s, they do have a
Uh,
notion of
they
objective
were,
oughts.
they had this poetic, metaphorical,
It's not poetic.
what
Like,
should I call it?
what's poetic
It's
about it? What's poetic about it? Tell me.
ought is poetic.
Take the example
The
of the tomato seed. What is poetic about it?
Yeah, the tomato seed ought to grow into a tomato plant is a poetic usage. It's not a literal usage.
Okay,
Nobody
you're
uses
saying
ought that way.
yes they do. In English, it is 100% common. Again, that's why I said like I don't know your language, but in English and Spanish, it is used that way
In
all
my
the time.
language, should we call should as karna chahiye like that, and karna chahiye is not like will. You're just equating ought to will. Ought is not will happen.
No, it's not
Ought
will.
happen does not mean will happen or must happen.
No, no. So you're
Uh,
again you're
ought.
misrepresenting me. You're misrepresenting me. Again, what you call existence, the empirical thing, like you again said, look, because it's a seed doesn't mean that it will grow into a plant empirically. I agree. But I'm talking about the actual essential being of the thing. I don't care about the empirical being. There are many reasons why the seed might not grow into the tomato plant. The genetics could be wrong. It could be a bad seed. Or it could be that it's in a desert, obviously, so it won't be able to grow. It doesn't have the soil
You know
condition.
what you're saying? Ought means an expectation that this is what this usually does.
No,
That's
not
just ought.
usually. It's not usually. Odd is not an expectation. Odd is saying, I know what a seed is. By the nature of
But
what
a
it
seed,
is, it
a
will do
seed
this.
only usually does. It
No, not
doesn't necessarily
usually. Not
always do it.
usually. It's not
A seed
usually.
doesn't always grow into the tomato plant, so
It's
that's
not
why I say
usually.
usually.
Yeah,
It
but
is
I'm not talking
usually,
again.
yes.
So I'm not talking about the empirical thing. The empirical thing doesn't matter to me. What I'm talking about is the essential thing, what it is to be a seed. If there was no essential fact to the seed, there would be no tomato plants. There would be
See,
no tomato
that kind of
species.
language, like you're kind of saying that ought means meant to. That kind of language, what I
It's not
just said
meant
that
to.
that's just poetic. It's
It's
poet
not
meant
poetic.
to or whatever.
You can't
Dude,
just say poetic.
it's a metaphorical usage.
Poetic is like saying time flows. I'm not saying some metaphor. I'm telling you exactly the structure. You can't just say it's poetic when it clearly isn't.
Ought no, it's certainly poetic. I would like to move on from here and respond to some of the other things that he said. So ignores stance independence. See, you agree that moral philosophers, when they talk about metaethics, they are trying to find out stance independent moral reasons for action or stance independent moral truths when they talk
No,
about objective morality,
no,
right?
no. I don't agree with it. I think I'll
So at
think
least
that I
current.
think all that I've noticed about current debates is people not actually being interested in dealing with it. Nobody ever talks about what the good actually is, which is the most important thing. Nobody talks about what an ought, like in an objective sense, actually is. They keep themselves to these little cloistered world of their meta-ethical discourse, and that they seem to forget that this has a relationship to the ontology of reality. And an
I just
ontologically
spoke with you.
ungrounded meta-ethics is
I, sp-
completely
I
irrelevant.
spoke with you on what good is, and I just ultimately concluded that it's subjective.
You didn't.
Good is what you subjectively perceive according to your desires,
That's
intentions,
not what is meant
and
by the good.
interests.
That's not what is meant by the good. So
But you're just acting as if you are the one who decides what the good is.
no, it's not what the one I decides. Again, like if you have a car that's electric car, and you for some reason erroneously think that it should run on gasoline, you're like, well, I'd like for it to run on gasoline, or you're delusional. You put gasoline in it, that car will break. That's not a hypothetical.
Yeah. So
So when
what?
you talk about good things, I'm not talking about hypothetical things. And if you're talking about hypothetical things, we're just not talking about the same thing. And I mean, we haven't been talking about the same thing truly this entire time. And so, just because we use the same word, morality, doesn't mean that we're talking about the same thing, uh, obviously. And I'm just saying that my usage of the word really coincides a lot better with the common usage of the word, at least in English and Spanish, the languages that I know.
Which word? Which word are you talking about?
Would?
Hello. Yeah.
No, I,
Which word
I,
are
I
you talking about?
said, no, I wasn't talking about would. I said that as far as like the word morality goes, my usage of it actually coincides far better with the standard common usage and intentions in English and
Do
Spanish.
you
I
have
don't know about
empirical
your
evidence for
language.
that? Do you have
Uh,
empirical evidence for that? Do you have any
uh,
data that supports that?
yes, all the people that I talked to in my life.
That's not data to me. You'll have to
That
show
is data.
empirical evidence.
That is data. I
That's
mean,
not.
look, you can talk to
That's
any
not.
American. You can talk to any
Why should I
American.
believe you?
Uh,
Hmm.
you don't have to believe me,
Oh,
but
oh,
it's not a
I
matter
don't
of
have to believe
belief.
you.
It's the fact that I
I
can
will
talk to
believe
other
you if
people.
you. I will
Like I
believe you if
mean,
you bring up empirical evidence, scientific evidence for that, which has been surveyed all across the globe. But
no,
I
I'm
don't
not
think you
talking
can
about all
based on
across the
face
globe.
value.
I'm not talking about all across the globe. I mentioned specifically in English and Spanish, which is the languages I speak. This is the common
Mm.
usage. I have never met anybody who's a normal person who's not
What?
he's not a philosophy nerd because
What?
philosophy nerds are different people, but who's a normal
Mm.
person who doesn't have the implications of what I'm talking about, and who, well, when I talk to them about it, they're like, they deny it. It's a lot of people just see what I'm saying as extremely obvious.
Okay, so see, see, philosophers and people who are rational can always, what should I say, reason them into it. reason non-philosophers into whatever they think is true. And it just takes time until they find out someone who opposes you, that they find out that they don't agree with you but them. So it can always be the case that you've just reasoned them into your view.
Yeah,
So
sure. And
that's not appealing to me.
somebody has reasoned you into their view, and I'm providing another view.
No, I'm giving you a rational account of subjective morality.
Yes, a rational account which somebody else reasoned you into, and you latched onto it, and you're like, well, nobody else told me something else that made sense, and this now makes sense. So
By
you've
reason,
gone with it.
by reasoned them into your view, I'm just saying that influence them, or
Yes, you have been influenced.
manipulate them. No, no,
Yes,
see,
you have been reasoned
manipulate
into it.
them.
Yes, you have been reasoned into it, and you've also been manipulated.
But I don't see any flaws in my account. But I've just shown you flaws in
Well,
your
I've
account.
shown you plenty
Uh,
of flaws in your
in that,
account.
in that it's vague. Your account is vague. It doesn't give
It's not
answers to all
vague.
questions.
It literally, you have
Uh,
not answered. I have not failed to answer any of your questions. Which one have I failed to answer? Then that you don't like
mm,
the answer is a different thing, but I have not failed to answer.
you think you've answered it, but because you're assuming your own conclusion in a
No,
couple
no, no.
of
Pay attention to what I just said.
in a
I pay attention to what I
instance.
just said. Hold on. I pay attention to what I said. You said I don't have the answer to everything. I did not fail to answer any of your questions. That you did not like it is a different thing.
No, they're just not rational.
Yeah,
I
that you
mean,
did not like it is a different thing. But I did not fail to answer.
and I agree with you in some of the things that you say, that human beings exist objectively, or objectively this is what human beings usually do. Human beings like existing. All this I agree with. These are objective facts about the universe. Yeah, and if you want to call that objective morality, I agree with you. Morality is objective. But that's not what we are talking about when we are debating a subjective objective morality. That's not what we are talking about.
That is what we're
We are
talking
talking about
about.
stance independent. We are talking about stance
Those
independent
are
reasons for
stance
action.
independent. Those are stance independent. They don't depend on me. They don't depend on you.
Uh, you should not kill is not stance independent.
It
And
is stance
even if
independent.
it is,
Look. I gave you the
even
example, right? I gave you the example. It even came up. If you go around killing Abhishek, you're gonna be killed. Now, if you don't care, that just makes
who
you stupid.
cares?
Yeah, that just makes you stupid. You're gonna be dead. I'm gonna be alive. The
How's
rest of
that
society,
stupid?
the rest of society is gonna be alive. Who dictates what happens in reality, Abhishek? Who has the freedom then? The living people, not the dead people. Now, if you don't care about that, you're a failure. That's just it. In my view, there are failures. The failures do not counteract and do not falsify the successes. It's that simple.
Yeah, in my view also, um, some of them are failures, but that's just a subjective view, bro.
It's not a subjective view. You're dead, I'm
It's
alive.
coming
It's that easy.
objectively.
It's that easy. You're dead, I'm alive.
And you think that being alive is a good thing. That's
No, no, it's not.
subjectively
It's not
fine.
that I think being alive is a good thing.
Most of the people think, but some of them
No,
might not.
no.
I'm just saying.
Again, you'll see. You always appeal to the sum. The sum. Nobody cares. Even if all
Okay,
people thought, even if all people thought
see,
that being
I
dead was
bring up
better, hold on. Even if all people thought it was
Antonio.
good to be
Hmm.
dead, Abhishek, that just makes
Yeah.
humanity an absolute failure of a species. And guess what? The species that aren't stupid like us, that aren't wired wrong, they'll continue on living. They will take over the universe, and we'll be dead.
Hmm.
And nobody cares about humanity because humanity
Who
doesn't matter.
cares? Yeah, who cares if that's the case? That still doesn't give me a morality account or metaethical account.
It is what we
I
are.
don't care.
It is what we are.
When we
So
talk
so
about
what does it do?
metaethics,
What has to
I
do
don't
with what you
care if
care?
humanity ends. I don't care if humanity ends. I care subjectively when it comes to normative ethics, but
Why would
that
you care?
you,
Okay, hold on. Why would you care? What rational account would
that
make you care?
I just told you that's my subjective preference.
No, no,
Simple
no.
as that.
I'm not asking that. I'm just saying what rational account would make you care?
Make me care about okay metaethics. You will have to bring up some kind of non-naturalist account for morality, in which you're saying that you have reasons for action independent of desires. But most of the non-naturalist accounts are unintelligible for me. Unintelligible. I just don't understand. It's just incomprehensible. Uh, and the naturalist account, I find your account is a naturalist account. You're just
It's
saying
not.
that nature, see, nature is, therefore that's what's good. It's a naturalist account for me.
No,
That's
it's not
just trivial.
naturalist. No, it's not
It's a
naturalist.
trivial,
No, no,
uninteresting account for me.
it's not naturalist in the way that you think.
Then what is
Because
it?
my view of humanity is a different nature to a physical nature. So when I talk about the us going with our nature because of what we are, this includes a whole lot of things that we didn't get into. Uh, and again, obviously, when you say, "Well, what if I don't care?" Indeed, what if you don't care? You're just a failure. That's all it means to me. In my world, people not caring just means that they're
The
failures.
reason I bring up some people not caring about it is just I'm trying to show that it depends on their
It does
subjective
not
care
depend.
thing.
That's see.
Th-
Do you see how that doesn't matter in my view? That in my view, that attack means nothing. Because in my view, I just go and say you're a failure because that's exactly what you are by definition. It doesn't
You're
matter. It
just saying
doesn't
that
matter if
subjectively.
99. No, it's not subjectively. I'm saying
It's not a
objectively.
fact of the universe.
It is a fact.
See,
Abhishek,
it
if you
is
don't
not a
care
fact
about
of the
survival,
universe that we have to exist.
If you don't care about
Hmm.
survival as a species,
Huh.
you're going to be dead. That's a fact. That's a
Okay.
fact. What do you
What
mean
else?
it's not a
Okay.
fact of the
Go
universe?
on.
So what I'm talking about are facts.
I agree
It's
with
you
that.
who talks
I
about
agree with
things
that.
that aren't facts.
See,
So why are you saying that it's not a
see,
fact?
Antonio, I agree that if I don't care about existence, I will die, and maybe the humanity also dies. I agree, and that's also an objective fact. But that's not moral. That doesn't mean morality is objective.
That is
No, it
morality.
doesn't.
Okay, Abhishek, if
No.
you don't know that gravity exists, it doesn't matter that you don't care that gravity exists. You will suffer the consequences. That's literally
Yeah.
all this means. When we talk about actual normative rules of a fact, that's all that it is. Why do you think that it has anything to do with you caring? You can go ahead and not care about gravity. Go ahead, jump off a skyscraper. You'll die. That's you being a failure. You weren't smart. You weren't intelligent. You didn't care about your being, and now you're dead. That's it.
Fa-
You suffered the
Failure is
consequence of being a
also
failure. You suffered the consequence of being a
fa-
failure. If
failure is also a subjective judgment you're
it's
making.
not subjective, it's not subjective. You're dead. The other people
You
are
just don't
alive.
realize.
No, from where does the judgment come from? From nothing or from something?
You,
Yes, you are
something,
something. Right.
an objective
So then
something.
you cannot say then that these are two things that are just happenstance kind of equal. They're not. The judgment is coming from the side of being, not the side of non-being. Always.
Yeah, it is. So what? I mean,
So then
how
you
does
can't
it
then
debate
you
with a
cannot
subjectivist?
pretend that these perspectives are
How's
even
that?
equal.
How's that debating with a subjectivist? You're not debating with a subjectivist. Then you're just saying human beings exist. Their preferences also objectively exist. Therefore, morality is objective. That's what you're saying.
No, obviously,
Preferences.
I gave you the whole account of preferences. It's not just preferences. I gave you that there is an objective role for preferences and that it's not some coincidence of chance that it just so happens that almost all your preferences happen to align with your being. And
I'll tell you what the
you don't
chance
think that
is.
this is very important? That is literally
I will
stands
tell you
independence.
what the chance is. The chance is that evolutionarily, luckily, it's the case that most people that exist want to promote existence. That's
That's not a
just a luck
chance.
factor about it.
That's not chances.
That's a
It's not
fact.
luck. No, if you appeal
It is
to evolution, if
absolutely
you
luck.
appeal to evolution, it's very simple. It's
Yeah.
not even chance. The chance is 100%. Those that have a
Yeah.
unity of their faculties, of pleasure and pain, and intellectual pursuits with being, will be the only ones to survive. Those that do not will be all dead, 100%.
I don't disagree
And
with
this
you on that.
world is clearly not a dead world. This world is a living world.
I don't disagree with you on that.
So then your attack
But
lands on nothing. It's not an attack.
my attack just lands on saying that you're just not acknowledging what subjectivity of morality means. It just means that it comes from preferences, attitudes, desires, and
Yes, and what are
intentions.
those preferences? When you account for what they are, Abhishek, you cannot help
Ah,
but
ah.
pay
And see,
attention
if you want to say
to.
that those humans from whom those preferences come objectively exist, and therefore morality is objective, I agree with you that morality is objective. But that's not what I care about when I'm debating with Ted.
That is not what I have argued this entire time. Now have I? That's a misrepresentation of me. You know it.
You're just saying that
I have shown
existence
you that the fact of existence is the being,
existence has to be
maintenance.
promoted.
No, it's
Huh.
being, maintenance, and expansion or growth. All those
Yeah.
things are aspects of what it is to be. Not just a human being, not just a biological being, but any being. Even an atom follows these rules. Because if it
Let them
didn't,
follow
it
the
would.
rules.
Yeah.
You're
Then
talking about you're only talking about laws of nature.
yes, and when we get to the human beings, the human being has their own form of these rules, but they are all these rules. So then, when you present it as me saying that this is some happenstance subjective preference, that, well, human beings who like to be alive and should be alive, that's not what I'm saying, and you know it. I have a complete
Then,
ontological account of
if,
this.
if that's the case, it's just trivial. I call
It's
it
not
trivial.
trivial.
You're
It is
just
not
saying that
trivial. It is not trivial.
this is what we call trivial in philosophy. You are
No, it is
explaining
not
it. I mean,
trivial. It is not
you're not.
trivial. I can give you a whole
You,
account metaphysically that is like hundreds of pages long as to why this is. You cannot call it trivial. I'm
it is
not
trivial.
saying
You're just
I am not saying no it's
describing
not.
the universe.
No, I'm
You're
not.
just describing the
No, I'm
universe.
not.
You're not
No, I'm not.
giving a metaphysical
Do you
account
know
of
how hard
what
it
I
is to
should
describe the
do
universe?
and what I shouldn't do. See,
Do you
Antonio.
know you cannot say this?
See,
Okay,
Antonio.
hold on.
Antonio.
I want you to take this
Antonio.
back.
Antonio.
I
Listen.
want you to take this back.
Yeah.
I want you to take back that
What?
word because that is insulting.
What do you want me to take back?
Yeah, it is not trivial.
What?
I have not stated something like A is A. I have not stated, well, being is good and, being is being and therefore it's good. That's not what I have said. I have presented a more
That's
complex
exactly
account.
what you're saying.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it may be more complex than 1 = 1, but it's still trivial. You're just describing the universe.
No, that is not
This is nature.
trivial.
These
You
are
can't
laws of
just say
nature. This is
that.
how
You can't
nature
just say
works.
that. You cannot just say that. That's not what I said.
I'll tell you what you've said. Okay, listen. Antonio says that the universe exists, nature exists, nature laws of nature exist, and this is how the universe works. That's it. That's morality. This is kind of the account you're giving. It's not interesting. It's trivial. That's why I'm calling it
How's
trivial.
again
Okay, I
again? So
agree with you.
you gloss over the details and you call it trivial.
Mm. Yeah, I'm just you know
You can't do that.
comparing. Yeah,
That's just like you going to a physicist. Obviously, it's like, well, you're just describing the universe. It's just trivial. When you can't even do the mathematics, when you can't even comprehend the level of the
we
conceptions and
haven't
like
done the
things that
mathematics.
you've done. Well, we haven't done it because we're having a short form debate. Basically, we're not having a seminar. Uh, so
Okay, but
that
still
realistically I can't
you're
present.
not describing
So
the
hold on. So you know
thing.
and I know that we cannot realistically present some kind of absolute grounding like argument here.
Sure,
So don't
sure.
insult
I'm not
me.
asking.
I'm just saying. So don't insult me. Don't say it's trivial. It's not. You know it's not.
I do think so, though. Uh, See, also what you've not done is that you've not given. So suppose that well-being or existence is morality. You've not given well-being in how much amount and how many individuals should be promoted depending upon resources and which
That
is
is
to be promoted
literally
in what
irrelevant. That
amount.
is literally irrelevant. I'm not a
It's
utilitarian.
not
So
irrelevant.
yeah, it is irrelevant. It is completely irrelevant. I'm not a utilitarian.
And then you've also not given account of what a specific action should be called, whether that's moral or not moral.
I actually have
You've not mentioned it.
anything that would promote your being, physical being, psychological being, rational
I
being,
can always
is
come up
going
with
to be good.
reductives like, see, someone lies and it promotes being, promotes existing.
No, no.
Is that moral?
What being are you promoting? Are you promoting your
moving.
physical being? Are you promoting your psychological being? Are you promoting your rational being? Which one? Are you
Let it be
promoting your
all.
individual or your
Let it,
social being?
let it be all. You lie,
No.
but there's no effect
Which
on
lie? Which
existence.
lie? Which lie are you saying? Are you lying about
Whatever. No,
Hitler? Are you
I mean,
lying about the Jews? Are you lying about
not
committing
about
tax
not
fraud?
that.
Which kind of lie?
Let's just say you're cheating on your girlfriend and you don't say that, and there's no effect on utility or whatever, or happiness. Or, there's no effect on
There is an effect.
existence.
There is an effect in existence. You're harming your
You're
psychological
assuming
being,
that
and
there.
you're, you know, I'm not assuming. This is a fact.
Suppose there's no harm in your
It is.
psychological
I'm
being.
not. I'm not going to intend with the suppose. It is a fact. You are harming your psychological being. You're
I
not
can
cheating.
imagine logically such a
You're not.
person
You're
exists.
hold on. You're when you're cheating with somebody, you're clearly not being completely rational. If you don't like somebody, don't be with them. There's no reason to harm them. You know, that's just selfish because you only view yourself as this individual unit, which you're not. The fact is you're not. You are a social being. Now, you can also, again, you can be a failure. You can be a psychopath. That's not a problem for me. That just shows that you're a failure. So what?
Okay. Anyway, let me just respond to a few more points that you said.
Uh,
Like, hmm
Actually,
you want to say something?
would you want to? Does anybody in the crowd want to ask some questions? Because I had somebody ask
Wait,
if they could.
bro, I'm running short of time, so I'll have to leave early. I'm sorry about that. I have to go to the office. God damn it. uh, so let me respond. So you said that, see, you know about the Abraham story, him trying to kill his son when God tells him to, right?
Yeah, that's not going to
Uh,
count for me.
okay, you're just saying that.
I'm not a
What's your
command
response to that?
theorist. I'm not a command theorist.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, sure. So what I'm basically trying to say that the motivation comes subjectively. It's internally coming.
And for me, motivations
It
don't
come.
matter.
Okay, so you're saying that it doesn't oughts don't
Yeah,
matter in the
no,
definition
no.
that I'm using it.
In motivation does not matter to an ought. An ought is an objective fact about what you do and how things are.
Suppose
Your
suppose ought
motivations just make you failures or successes. That's it.
suppose ought from my definition, not yours. Suppose consider ought from my definition and not yours. What's your response now?
I don't care. Why would I consider from your position? Like you're wrong. That's like
All
that's just
right.
telling me Abhishek. You're saying consider that squares are circles. They're not. So why would I care?
It's not comparable. See, you
It is
can
comparable.
certainly imagine. Listen,
Subjective
listen,
morality
bro.
is an oxymoron of like square circles.
No,
It's
no,
just
no, no,
that
no. I'm
way.
not talking about that. I'm talking about ought. You can imagine ought having the definition that I'm using. You can't
Mm,
compare it with
no,
round
no.
circles. It would
I
be a
actually
round square.
can't. I can't
Whatever.
imagine. I can certainly accept that you string a set of words together that you place some kind of meaning on, which are meaningless in fact.
Y- and then you said that golden rule is exists overall in all cultures, and that's kind of an evidence for objective morality. But I'll just say that it's subjectively obtained. That's why
Mm,
we are here. Golden rule exists. That's why we are here and proliferating as a species without any. I mean, yeah,
well,
failures are here and there,
well,
but
well. How else would you get it other than subjectively? Obviously, you're a subject knowing the world. If the world is
yeah,
rationally organized, and you are a being rationally organized to be rational, you would obviously also apprehend subjectively the rational organization of objectivity, as well as subjectivity. Why wouldn't you get it subjectively? You yourself are
yeah,
the
you
very thing
can
that you're
say that.
seeking.
You can say that golden rule is rational. Yeah, I agree that people are somewhat rational and mostly irrational, or whatever it is. I don't know the exact proportion of that, but yeah, uh, people are rational and rational with respect to their desires, and that's why they're here.
Yes, and it so happens to be that their rational desires and their actual desires seem to align very much with their psychological being, physical being, and rational being.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
But that's
and
ultimately
if and
becoming
if we weren't
subjective.
that kind of being, it's not ultimately subjective. The fact is, if we weren't that kind of being, we'd be dead.
That's what I'm saying, that it's trivial.
That's not trivial. I mean, again,
Uh,
like you use that word as a dismissal, it seems to me, but just saying it doesn't make it so.
no, I'll tell you why I use that word. See, in metaethics and moral philosophy, philosophers want such an account, which is not trivial. They want an objective
There's
morality
nothing
there
trivial
himself.
about what I've said. Again, you keep saying that word, and that's what I'm objecting to. Because what I have
By
said is
see,
not
I'll tell you
trivial.
what. I will tell you what trivial means here. By trivial, I mean that you're not giving an account of normativity and
I
prescriptivity.
have given you an account, unlike you,
Not really.
unlike anybody else that you have talked to. I have given you an account.
Not at all.
Yes. So the world is a being which generates itself as a being. We are beings in that world. By the nature of what it is to be, obviously we're skipping a gazillion steps. But the generality follows that because of the nature of being, we have the nature as the kind of beings that we are, where we have obviously biological unity, physical unity, and we are primed to maintain that, and we do maintain that. We are primed to maintain psychological unity. We want to be happy, and we don't want to be, sad or in pain. And we also strive for, some of us, very rare, I know, but we try to have rational unity, which is we also have a desire for rationality. We want to be right. We want to be
Mm.
correct. We want to know the truth.
You just said it there. Desire for rationality.
Well,
That
of
is what
course,
I'm saying is subjective.
that that does that
See,
does
I agree
not
with everything
reduce
that
to
you
what
said
you just
in the
said.
last
So
1 minute or
that does
something.
not reduce to what you just said, right? Because what I'm
It
saying is
does.
that this desire for rationality, these desires are tied to what it is to be, not just to be human, but to be at all. It's not trivial.
Hmm. Okay, if you don't want to call it trivial, fine. And I agree with everything you just said. But it's not you've not given me a satisfactory account uh,
What would be a
when it comes
satisfactory
to
account?
philosophy.
How could you say that
See,
anything would be satisfactory that's not ontological?
your kind of ontological morality, objective morality that you're giving, uh, I kind of relate it to naturalistic accounts of morality, and none of them can be non-trivial. Most of them,
Okay,
or
okay.
all of
Again,
them, are
you keep
trivial.
saying that word, but you haven't said what's actually trivial about it. And when you presented it, you misrepresented me.
I'll tell you. No, see, you're saying that uh, the universe exists, existence is good, but you haven't given me a reason for that.
No, that's not what I
This is how you
said. That is not what I said. The structure of
usually
it,
this
the
is what
structure.
this category of people.
Okay, well, I'm not a category of people. I'm Antonio Wolf. You're talking to Antonio Wolf. You've been
Yeah.
talking to him for like an hour.
This is what this category of being usually does. Therefore, this
No, no,
category of
not
being
usually
should
does.
do that.
Again, you're misrepresenting.
Even if always does, even if always does, you don't get from that to an ought.
Again, the way I use the ought, I
When you
already
say
explained to
that
you.
there is
Again,
no
again. So hold
ought,
on.
you
When I use the
couldn't.
ought, I explained to you what it was. You can't deny it. That you don't like the word usage is kind of irrelevant to me. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. And if we're disputing that you don't like my word usage, just the same thing way that I don't like your word usage about trivial.
Now, if that's the case, then there's not much disagreement between you and me. So we can maybe end this on a positive note. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't
Um,
disagree with you in many of the things that you said, but when it comes to
but I disagree
metaethics,
with you.
that's not a satisfactory.
It is
Okay,
a
what do you
satisfactory.
disagree with?
Everything. You're wrong about morality. Like there is no subjective morality. It's an oxymoron.
Um,
That's just a
see,
fact. You using that word is just
you,
wrong.
you
I don't care that analytics
you
use
have
it that
a
way.
sense of arrogance with everything. I mean, we debated free will, and at the end, you only have to say that you're just wrong. You're just wrong,
Uh,
and it's the
no,
same
it
that you're
wasn't
saying right
just
now.
you just wrong. I explained to you exactly why you were wrong. I've also explained to you exactly why you were
You
wrong here.
haven't. You haven't. You
I
haven't.
have.
You haven't shown how
I
it
have.
can't be subjective. I mean,
I
yeah,
have.
you haven't.
Again, I
Not
have.
at all.
So yes, I have. so so we're just not going to agree on that. And I'm not here to convince you. I mean, that's kind of irrelevant to me. But I was here to expose a
No,
position,
I
and I
wish I
put
could.
it forward.
I wish I could, and I'm also open for you to convince me. I'm not like I'm uh, closed. I'm not
Uh,
closed-minded to not change my mind with evidence or reason. So I
uh,
wish you could have changed me, but you haven't. You
I don't
couldn't.
think that's true, Abhishek.
Well,
Uh,
what do you mean by?
you're not actually open-minded, and it's not a you problem. This is generally the case with
If
most
see, listen,
philosophy.
listen, Antonio, hold on. See, if I wasn't open-minded, I wouldn't have converted to a moral anti-realist. I was a moral realist, and there have been my whole life is a collection of such stuff. Like I've
Uh,
always changed my positions with
that
evidence and
that that
reason,
has
and
nothing to
that's
do
one
with
thing
being
you just can't
open-minded.
accuse me of.
No, no,
You
no.
can't
That has nothing
accuse
to
me
do with
of.
being open-minded, Abhishek. People
It
who are
has to.
closed-minded also change their opinions. They remain closed-minded, and it's not a you problem. This is a problem with the way that people think. And we talked about it before with the free will thing, where I told you, look, what I'm presenting to you comes from a standpoint in which there's a radical demand which almost nobody meets, and it's a very strong demand. It's a demand for an absolute grounding of reason itself. And until you have that, you're not really open-minded. Uh, I wasn't open-minded until I got to that, because you always have these assumptions in the background. You always think that you know what you're actually talking about, when in reality you really
Dude,
don't.
dude, see, I like you, but you're arrogant as fuck, you know? I like you. I like talking to you, though.
No,
But
yeah, I get it.
that's not what I expect from philosophers. I mean,
Oh well,
too bad.
you haven't read the good guys. All the good guys are arrogant as fuck.
All right. I have
You
time, perhaps, if I don't die.
should
Anyway,
read
nice
read
talking to you, mate.
Hegel.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah, yeah.
eventually, maybe. Yeah, nice talking to you,
All
bro.
right, man.
For more conversations ahead, I would like to talk to you about God and stuff in the future,
Uh,
if you're
yeah, yeah.
interested.
Let's set up on that. We can talk about God next time.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
See you,
sure.
man.
Take care, buddy. See you.
See you. All right. Let's head over to discussion for all the rest of you. All right. Any afterthoughts from anybody? Any afterthoughts?
Hey man.
Yep.
What'd you ask? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, asked if anybody has afterthoughts, comments on
Afterthoughts on the well, I I personally felt as though the interlocutor kind of put himself out of the world, if that makes any sense. As though like he's almost like a god looking at the world, you know? Um, as though like he's a ghost floating above it, if that makes any sense. Um, but as you were kind of pointing out, you're kind of in the world, right? Um, and so I felt like he kept saying, well, it's all subjective, it's all subjective. But he never actually grounded the subject object relation. Um, he just kind of presupposed it tacitly and misused it, I guess.
that.
That was kind of my first impressions.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like that, they just pretend that rationality and being and goodness have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, I like to say they act as though like it falls from heaven, you know.
No, I mean, like, you pay attention. It says, like, well, like, I define goodness as just, my preference. Why do you
Yeah.
have a preference?
Yeah, exactly. You need to search for the preconditions for those
And I mean,
desires.
perhaps I didn't phrase it right. I don't think there's anything I could do to phrase it right for him.
Yeah, maybe.
He just doesn't think that way. So I don't think it's a phrasing problem. Ultimately, I could go on for hours and hours. I mean, I'll probably get nowhere.
But yeah, no, other than that, I thought it was a good discussion. I thought you defended the position pretty well, you know. Um, so yeah.
All right. Anybody else got thoughts? DM, how'd you think that go? Or that went? Nobody?
So I think that I agree that the ultimate issue was that there wasn't a common ground as far as like he couldn't think on the same level. And I was thinking, like, is there any, like, is that in some sort of, some sort of project, if that makes any sense, is like getting or like converting, kind of like, is there like a Hegelian equivalent of class consciousness or consciousness raising? Because like people have to learn how to think speculatively, and it has to come from themselves ultimately at the end of the day. But I mean, somebody can always water a seed, to go back to that metaphor. So I don't know, something to think about.
Well, no, yeah, that's what these debates are for.
That makes sense.
Like it. I mean, I didn't present like the Hegelian account, but it's related to it. And if anybody ever wants to know, like, hey, how'd you get to that? Oh, here it is. Here's the kind of thing that you have to go through. And you're right that you can't really force this on people. They have to come through it on their own. I mean, he called me arrogant, which is totally understandable. If you come from a regular background and all you ever known is, well, here's a position here, here's a position there.
Yeah.
Somebody coming at you and saying, look, no, this is the case, will seem completely arrogant to you. But they don't realize the arrogance of their own position. Because they pretend that they don't know anything, but they act like they know everything.
Same problem with skepticism in general.
Like him calling my position trivial is insulting.
Yeah.
Because my position is the least trivial of any position that I've encountered in anything in metaethics. It's they who are trivial. They never tell you what a moral fact actually is. They never tell you what the good actually is. They never have an ontological grounding for morality. They just talk about morality in this abstraction if its morality is like something completely unrelated to what is. And they're like, oh, but the is-ought distinction. And then you give them an answer and they just ignore it. He just ignored what I said because he didn't like it. What can you do with those people? Nothing.
Well, that's all I have.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I don't know. I just
joined. All right. All right. Well, we'll finish the recording there.